One of the students raised their hand and said, "Hey, those both kind of look like circles. What happens if you put them over each other?" Many years ago, I was training a group of high school students to facilitate small groups of junior hires for the summer. And I was going through my normal facilitator training workshop when I presented a model that we call comfort zones. Many of you are aware of that, or at least have heard the term. Then right after that, I started talking about a wholeness or wellness model that now I call either the total leader or the total performer. And as I talked about those two models separately, one of the students raised their hand and said, "Hey, those both kind of look like circles. What happens if you put them over each other?" And that poked my brain strong enough so that now I talk about different comfort zones. First, let's talk about the comfort zone model. Many of you have heard of the comfort zone or comfort zones because when you go to a workshop or you go to a training and people say, "What do you want out of this?" They'll say, "I want to get outside my comfort zone." Well, we need to talk about it when you're a facilitator. You need to kind of have a better idea and more precise understanding of comfort zones. So most often you'll see a model of comfort zones that starts with a big circle. And inside that big circle, you put another circle, and that is the edge of the comfort zone. And I always ask, so what is a comfort zone? And the person with the most keen grasp of the obvious says, that's that zone where you're comfortable. And yes, that's right. But what does that really mean? Well, I take that line that separates that comfort zone to be that place where failure moves from possible to probable. So you're in your comfort zone when most likely you have the skills and abilities and competencies to succeed. Failure is always possible, but more likely than not, you have what it takes to be successful in that task or that challenge. When you cross outside the comfort zone, that's when failure becomes probable. You're not sure, you're pretty sure you don't have the skills and the competencies to be successful. So there's more than a 50% chance that you will fail when you step outside your comfort zone. Now, when you step outside your comfort zone, we call that the growth zone. When failure is possible, and this is a way to understand failure, failure teaches you where you need to grow. And you can't understand and really know where you need to grow until you get outside your comfort zone and failure starts to be possible. All of a sudden, you're hyper aware of where your shortcomings are. And so you move from your comfort zone into your growth zone. Now, if you continue to push, there's a zone outside your growth zone. We call that the retreat zone. And that's where you move from failure being probable to failure being certain. At least you feel that failure will be certain in that task. And learning can't happen there. So you've exited the growth zone and entered the retreat zone. And in the retreat zone, you have anger, you have frustration, you have buyout, you have walkout. And all these things are signs that you might have pushed somebody further than they could possibly go. At least they feel that there is no chance of success. There's another zone that I like to put in the very center. In the center of your comfort zone, there's what we call the don't waste my time zone. And that's where you're not engaging participants or an individual enough to even interest them. They're bored. And when they're in their don't waste my time zone, they're not only bored, but they're frustrated and they're angry and there's walkout and there's all these things that look a lot like the retreat zone. So it's important in this comfort zone model that you understand that the retreat zone and the don't waste my time zone look a lot alike. Now let's talk about the wellness model, the wholeness model. You've probably seen these models oftentimes in health centers or in exercise world. The recreation world has kind of cornered the market on wellness. But the model is wonderful because it talks about all aspects of who a person is. I use this whether I'm talking about leadership, emotional intelligence, individual coaching, or talking about or facilitating a group dynamic. So it starts off by understanding while we are a whole person, there's different parts to that whole. The first area that we usually talk about is the emotional aspects of a person. Also, right along that, and it's very popular these days, is talking about the social aspects. Emotional and social competencies, also known as emotional intelligence, emotional and social intelligence. But you should also be aware that there's a physical aspect of who a person is that impacts performance just as much as any of the other parts. You also have to account for the intellectual aspects of a person. And also the spiritual. And we're not talking about religious, we're talking about the spiritual aspects that let us know that we are part of a larger piece of the universe. So that's what happened when the student asked me to overlay those two circles, the comfort zone model and the wellness model. And all of a sudden, it made me realize that not all comfort zones are the same, and different people are challenged differently by different things. One person might be challenged intellectually by a test, while another might be challenged in their social realm by that same test, the pressure to perform versus the fear of looking dumb. So this model, when I'm working with individuals, can help me understand where to challenge and where to support. In working with groups, it can help me understand what kind of event or what kind of exercise or what kind of topic might work best at different times. You can challenge a group in a number of different areas at the same time. You can also support a group the same way. So the different comfort zone model is a very powerful way for facilitators, teachers, instructional designers to think about how you structure learning opportunities.